So Project Veritas broke a story earlier this week about a guy named Jurek, a Bernie Sanders campaign organizer in Iowa, and the things that this guy has been saying about people who do not want to bow the knee to the quote-unquote revolution are just heinous.
Doors closing.
They seem emboldened. They have been emboldened by Trump and all that rhetoric and shit. But they are scared senseless of anti-fascists. Even the ones that are kind of the right-wing people. The only thing that works, and the only thing that fascists understand is violence. So the only way that you can confront them is with violence.
So if Trump gets reelected, what?
And cities burn.
What you gotta do?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot of time left. We have to save human civilization. And obviously, Trump don't give two about making sure that the world doesn't burn.
Bernie doesn't get the nomination, or it goes to the second round at the DNC convention, Milwaukee will burn. It'll start in Milwaukee, and then when the police push back on that, and other cities will.
Be ready to be in Milwaukee for the DNC convention.
Well, what
I gotta say.
Oh, I plan on being there. What about Des Moines?
We're gonna make 1978 look like a f***ing Girl Scout f***ing cookout.
What does that mean?
Remember what happened when McGovern got f***ed in Chicago in 1978? Riots. F***ing people getting beaten by the cops. The cops are gonna be the ones that are getting f***ing beaten in Milwaukee. You're gonna call it the National Guard for that shit. Promise you that.
But this is typical left sentiment. This is nothing new from Bernie Sanders supporters. I won't say that all of them are like this, but an overwhelming majority are. We see that a lot of the Antifa members are Bernie Sanders supporters. Not only have we already heard this type of talk, but we have already seen this type of violent behavior in action. So it's really scary to think about, because he's making threats saying that Minnesota is going to go up in flames and all these different major cities just if Bernie Sanders is not nominated. But again, this is nothing new. But what I can't understand is, how come it didn't come up in the Democratic debate earlier this week? Because if this were a Republican, if this guy was a conservative or a Donald Trump supporter, they most certainly would have it all over the news. They would still be talking about it to this day, leading up to the campaign, I believe. It just never would have been wiped off of the television. So it just shows you the extreme bias of the left media. See, what I never understood about people like this guy, Jurek, who want to wage war and violence against the typical blue-collar male, or blue-collar American, that is, who just wants to go to work, feed his family, keep more of his hard-earned money in his pocket, wants smaller government, wants his children to have a standard education, and to learn real math, and who want his children to use the bathroom that their gender decides, and not some weirdo who wants to dress kids up in little boys up in little girls' clothes, and little girls up in little boys' clothes. Why don't these people just come together, since they're so communitarian, come together, put a fund together, send out some adventurers or some people who would go on these expeditions to find your own piece of land. Get you a big boat, find your own piece of land, sail the 7 seas, make sure the rock is empty, because of course you don't want to have to overtake the land like America did, because America was so terrible when they did that, and they overthrew those people. So you don't want to have to do that. Find your empty rock where you guys can settle, and you can just have your own civilization, and things will be great for you. You live happily ever after. But I forget that we're the ones with the jobs and the money and the get up and go about ourselves, to get up and work and establish things like that. None of you want that. You guys want things handed out to you freely. Everything has to come to you. We'll let the government do it. We don't want to do our own thing. We don't even want to eat our own food or cook our own food, apparently, because all socialism does is just put you in the bread lines. And if you don't believe me, you can ask Russia, Venezuela, Cuba, all of these other socialist places who some of their people are even robbing dogs for food. If you want socialism so bad, just leave. Another thing I would like to point out is that he seems to have an extreme amount of animus towards liberals, like moderate liberals. And he even says that they're gonna get the gulags and they're gonna get the wall first. It's like, and I mean, he's making, there's no ambiguity. He is making threats about pure violence and even killing. But again, a lot of it is directed toward the liberals, the moderate liberals, and it just shows this civil war that nobody wants to discuss in the mainstream media between a socialist and just your moderate typical liberal. It's all the same, but obviously the socialists, the people who are willing to come out as socialists, have a really hard time dealing with these moderate liberals, and they want to be deciphered differently, apparently, and they have it out for each other. So we'll see how far this goes. Another question would be, how would this impact the Bernie Sanders campaign? Because in my personal opinion, Bernie Sanders does not stand a chance. Nobody's gonna vote for an old guy who seems to be out of touch, who says he wants to tax us is like upwards of 40%, and who's never worked a job. I don't care how many marches you've done with Martin Luther King. Nobody's an idiot. We don't want your policies. But we know that Bernie Sanders does have a lot of followers, so it's going to be interesting to see if and how the mainstream media picks this up and how they choose to spin it, because a lot of them are saying, oh, that's just one guy. But Project Veritas, and again, if you're not familiar with Project Veritas and their work, I would recommend them, strongly recommend them. They do great work. They do a lot of undercover work, but they're saying that they have more videos of this guy, Cal Jurek, and others like him. So we'll see how it impacts the Bernie Sanders campaign. I'm Isaiah Gates, and this is the Subway Train, the modern Underground Railroad.
Doors closing.